Hey, it's Jess. Welcome back. Today I'm here with another Way Back Wednesday where I will be talking about all the books that I read in May of 2022. Looking at my Goodreads, I read a total of 10 books that month. All of them were new, none of them were rereads. The first book I read was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. At the time, I was in an online book club, and this is the book that they had chosen to read, so that's why I read it. And I think it was on Kindle Unlimited. I can't remember. I don't know if it still is. In this book, you are following a woman. Her brother, I believe, has gone missing. So she comes to Paris, to his apartment, to find him. And while she's there, she meets all the people who live in the apartment and finds out that they all have secrets. It's, hoity-toity, secretive apartment building in Paris. Looking for her brother, trying to find out what happened with him. I did not really like this book that much. I thought it was fairly mediocre. One, I felt like there were way too many characters. It got a little confusing on that part, and just overall, I didn't really enjoy it. The next book I read was The Last Flight by Julie Clark. This is a book that I was just searching on Libby, which is my library's app that they use it for ebooks and audiobooks, and was looking through thrillers and happened to pick this one, and I really, really enjoyed it, so I'm glad that it turned out that way. In this, you are following a woman who is on the run, I believe, from her husband or her soon-to-be ex. I can't remember. She's on the run, so she goes to the airport, but while she's there, she meets another woman who is also trying to escape something, and they end up switching tickets. So the first woman ends up going to California, I think, and living the life of this first woman, or the second woman that she met at the airport. And then the second woman gets on the plane. And so the people who are after the first woman follow the plane and try to figure out where she is because of, she's supposed to be on that plane. It sounds really confusing, but I just remember it was a really good book, and I really enjoyed it. It was a quick read, but it was something different than I had ever read. I hadn't read a ton of thrillers at that time, and honestly, I haven't read anything else like that book, so I'm glad I found it on Libby, and I really enjoyed that one. The next book I read was Crescent City 2, which is The House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. This is, like I said, the second book in the Crescent City series. I don't really remember very much about it. You are still following Bryce, and I can't even remember who she's in love with. Some angel. I don't remember his name. You're following them. They're fighting for freedom for the city, and there's other stuff that's happening too. I don't know. I liked this book at the time. I liked it okay. I don't like it as much as I liked the first book, but still, it's just a sexy, spicy, fae book. I read the third one this year and really did enjoy that. So that's probably why I don't really remember anything about this book. The next book I read was Tender as the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. I'm not quite sure how to say her name. I apologize. This is a book set in a world where animal flesh has become inedible. It poisons people. And so rather than everyone become vegetarian, they create special meat and people eat that instead. So you are following, I believe, someone who is not a butcher, but a processor for this special meat. You're following him. He goes to one of the farms and is given a head of special meat to take home to process and everything like that. This is a very bleak book. It's a lot of people find it very gross because it doesn't surprise me that rather than become vegetarian, we would all just find a new kind of meat to eat. I liked this one. The end really got me. I was enjoying it, and then the end happened, and I was like, 5 stars. But this is a very divisive book. Some people really, really like it. Some people really, really hate it. The next book I read was The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle. This is a book that I just happened to see at my library, and so I picked it up. It's a short little novella. It is kind of a reimagining or retelling of one of H.P. Lovecraft's stories. I can't remember which one it is, but it is very much like cosmic horror. If I remember correctly, Black Tom is a musician, and he was hired to like play at this dinner party, and when he gets to this dinner party, this weird stuff is happening, and I think portals open or something. It's very cosmic horror. I did not enjoy this at the time. I think, one, I wasn't necessarily in the best headspace to be reading this. I read it because I got it from the library and felt like I needed to read it, so my heart wasn't really in it at the time. I think if I went back and read it now, I would enjoy it a lot more. The next book I read was Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. This is a story about a woman who is in rehab for drug addiction, or she's like recovering from drug addiction, and she gets hired as a nanny for this like rich family. And she lives in the shed in their backyard and she takes care of their young son. As she's staying there and taking care of this boy, he starts talking about his imaginary friend and starts drawing these incredibly creepy pictures. And so the woman is trying to figure out, like, who is this friend? Are they actually a real person or ghost? What are these pictures, and what is he trying to tell me with these pictures? I really liked this book. This is another one that is definitely hit or miss. A lot of people did not like or enjoy the ending of this book. At the time, I liked it. If you are going to read this book, I highly recommend either an ebook or a physical book, because it shows the pictures that the boy is drawing. And so if you're just listening as an audiobook, you're not going to see those pictures. It wouldn't have as much of a punch if you were just listening and didn't actually see the pictures that accompanied the text. The next book I read was Near the Bone by Christina Henry. In this book, you are following Maddie. She and her husband William live in a very isolated cabin up in like the mountains, and Maddie, as far as she can remember, has always lived there with William. They are very self-sufficient. He goes down the mountain into the town to get all their supplies, and everything else that they need, they either make or like Maddie traps it, hunting. William probably does the hunting. She has like rabbit traps and stuff. One day she goes into the woods to check the rabbit traps and hears something and thinks she sees a monster. So she runs back to the house. She's trying to escape from this monster. And there's also a group of, I can't remember if they were like podcasters or something like that. They're also up in the mountains and trying to survive against this monster too. But when Maddie tells her husband William about it, he starts to act differently. Basically, this book is about sometimes the humans are the monsters. Humans suck, and sometimes they're just as bad, if not more evil and scarier than monsters that are out there in the woods. The next book I read was Electric Idol by Katie Robert. This is the second book in the Dark Olympus series. So in this book, you are following Psyche and Eros. They come together. I think they get married, like, not as a deal, but like they get married for mutual benefits. But Eros's mother is Aphrodite, and she does not like that. And so I think she's like maybe trying to have Psyche killed off or something. So Psyche has to like stay with Eros, and they end up falling in love. This is a spicy Greek myth book. The Dark Olympus series is set in a world where Olympus is a city, and it is ruled by 13 governing bodies. And so this series is about those 13 positions and the children of them and how they all kind of interact. So it's retellings of Greek myths, but it's also very spicy. I really like Katie Roberts' writing. And I definitely think I love the Dark Olympus series. The first few are definitely some of my favorites. I really enjoyed this one too. The next book I read was Help for Billy by Heather T. Forbes. This is a nonfiction book about classroom management and forming relationships with our children in schools who are like, basically it's from, who are basically like trauma filled. Their pasts are full of trauma. And I got this book. I had attended a trauma-informed schools conference a few years before this and picked this book up there. So it's all about how to relate and help our basically most vulnerable students and how we need to change our classroom management practices and change how we form relationships with them to help them grow to their biggest potential. The last book I read in May of 2022 was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This is a book where I had heard about it all over like Facebook book groups and things like that. You're following a woman and I believe her husband are vacationing in Paris, and she goes and does, I can't remember what it's called, like mucking or something, where you go down to the river banks and you like sift through all the dirt and you can find stuff down there. I can't remember what it's called. It has a name. And she finds this like bottle from an apothecary shop that obviously existed a long time ago. And so you're following her nowadays, but also go back in time and like learn about this apothecary and the apothecary shop. I didn't particularly care for this book. It wasn't what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but I'd heard a lot about it and I got it and it was just mediocre to me. I don't think I've ever recommended anyone read it, and it's not one that I think about very often because, again, just didn't really enjoy this one. And those are all the books that I read in May of 2022. Pretty good reading month considering we were wrapping up school for the year that month. I had some books that I really enjoyed, some books that were kind of a swing and a miss, but there are some that I would like to go back and revisit. So now I want to know, have you read any of these books? What did you think? All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.